Bonjour, hello everyone. I'm Nata, host of the Nata PR School podcast. You're a successful entrepreneur or marketing manager and you're about to launch a new product or service, or you've been selling your goods for quite some time, but you want to learn how to increase your visibility, get known, and reach more clients? At Nata PR, we deal with real clients every day and we'll teach you simple, fun, and honest PR solutions. You'll learn easy steps to combine PR to social media right now. Keep listening and let's get started. Bonjour, hello, and welcome to this 85th episode of the Nata PR School podcast. The Canadian market versus the American market. And today I have a very special guest. I'm so happy to have you with me for this episode, 85th episode. So David Tremblay, my partner and vice president at Nata PR, is joining me to talk about the US market and the Canadian market. Welcome, David.
Hi, Nata. Thank you for having me.
I can't believe that we recorded the 10th episode together, and since then I've recorded 75th more episodes. It's just insane.
I know, 75th is such a huge number. The fact that we're at 85th now, I cannot believe that.
It's insane. And for those who want to know more about David, I invite you to go listen to episode 10, and I ask you more personal questions, and you talk about your vision of PR and what it is for you. But today I wanted to talk with you about your work, because you do a lot of work in the US market right now. So is there a better market? What are the differences? And of course, since COVID, many new companies are entering these markets, Canadian and the US. So tell me, according to you, what are the main differences?
Yeah, right. You're right. A lot of brands are entering the markets through digital, right? Online. Obviously, what the pandemic has done is really to explode everything that is online, digital, e-shop, Instagram shop, everything, right? So it's kind of much easier to open a new market and launch a new market when you're only digital. You don't have to brick and mortar space to think. But instead of talking about differences, I would challenge you and talk about the similarities of the market, because
that's a good idea,
right? What is really interesting that I've found so far is that obviously Canada, it's a smaller market, but there's still like Quebec, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, 4 different markets, 4 different way of talking to media, different pool of media as well, journalists, editors, and obviously the Quebec being the most different in terms of even the language is different, right? So that's definitely something that we know from Canada. But then entering the US market is kind of the same thing. They have the same language. Obviously, they have also Spanish, but they have the same language in terms of English, and most of the media are. So that's not the difference. But, difference between Miami, between LA, between New York, between Seattle, it really reminds me of the difference between the market, the East Coast and the West Coast of Canada, right? It's kind of the same idea.
That's a very good point, and we forget that. Some brands decide to enter, let's say, the US market, and they have no idea that it's such a huge territory that, of course, it's easier if you think about New York and then LA, then you have an idea. But yeah, there's way more smaller markets. Texas is another one. So yeah, that's a good point. And it's the same thing in Canada, because these countries are huge, spread out. And as you know, I'd like to say that if you think about Canada, we have the population of California, but it's spread. If you take the population of California and spread it on Russia, the territory of Russia, that's Canada. And you're right. So that's interesting. That's some similarities. So different markets, and we will write differently or do different events, or we'll be working differently for sure. Or sometimes let's pick a market too, because some people, some brands, or some founders that I've met, they want to be all over North America, but they don't understand how crazy huge it is, right?
Yeah, how many times we hear I want to enter the US market. Okay, so what does that mean? First, do you have the shipping my abilities, because that's shipping itself, like from if your warehouse is in New Jersey and then you're shipping to LA, that's kind of a stretch. So you need to make sure that this is, everything is kind of arranged beforehand, or like you have like, people or warehouse or, companies that will help you do that. But that's definitely for brands to do that. But even then, like I feel like the most important thing is do your research. I would say like the first thing is do your research. Obviously nowadays with everything that's happening online, we're able to see where, if we do have an online shop, or we are able to see, where the purchase come from, right? Where are our clients? Oh, funny enough, our second market is LA. Why is that, right? And then you do research, and then maybe it's from an article or a feature or etc., right? But then you're able to explore more, and then depending of your product, again, you can look online. Like it's Natalie, you've been in PR for a while now. Like how easy it is today to find out about a market.
Oh, yes, I know. I know. As you know, I tell our staff all the time and new employees that we have, like, you don't understand how lucky you are. Like, Google is just like such an amazing tool. It's almost impossible not to find what you're looking for.
Well, you have to try out not to find. That's
it. But we find so many information, but I want to go back to what you just said, because most brands now sell online. It still happens, but it's kind of rare that a brand doesn't have a website, especially after the pandemic now. And now they get so much information, but before that, they didn't even exist. Like before internet, many brands had no clue who their real customers or clients were, because they were sold through stores or through, different network, but they didn't have the control, or they weren't making direct sales. So you're right, most brands now are doing direct sales, and this is interesting what you were saying, because this is a client that you manage right now, and they're based out of Canada, and they find out that many of their buyers were based in LA. So that was so interesting, and you did a lot of work for them. It worked well too. So what was the perception of the brand in LA?
Well, we decided to go there at some point and for an event, and just, let's go and meet the media. Let's go and meet some interesting and inspired people to see why LA. And funny enough, when we were there, like, we basically found out that people were kind of, finding the same qualities that Quebecers would find about a brand. They would kind of say the same thing. Obviously, Quebec, LA is sunny. Quebec, it's sunny, but winter.
Not the same weather.
Right, right. So it was quite interesting to find out the similarities between both markets, even though, territory is quite different. But in terms of like the lifestyle, right? Kind of the cool and like kind of, relationship is so important. Friends. So all of that makes kind of markets similar. And I feel like when we went there, like media were so impressed by the product, and, they're so interested by the same kind of design. So we found out, and obviously we knew that there was something there because of the online sales. And then, as you mentioned, like the market was the second one. But then when you go there, much more easier to know that specific market, let's work that market and then just grow from there, instead of going everywhere and trying to find where it's going to catch, right? So it's definitely like I feel like for that brand, obviously, like, it's not an international brand that has like, unlimited assets. So how we can, conquer the US market. I feel like that was a great way to do it. And because they did the research, because they have like all the information they needed about their client online on their website with their traffic. So that's so important now for brands to know that, because you get better at what you do, and even in your own market, you know better.
You can even do surveys. Some brands that we have are super smart, and they ask their followers or their clients, so what do you like? What color products do you want? And it makes complete sense. And they find out sometimes, working with them, that, oh my God, this is what we thought that this is what they were looking for, but no, this is like more this color, for example. Colors are very interesting, like for some brands, and they realize sometimes, oh my God, this is not what we should be doing.
And we just think like Montreal and Toronto, 6-hour drive, right? That's the and cannot be
An
more.
hour flight.
Yeah, an hour flight cannot be more different. We had some media event, an influencer event in Montreal, and the same brand in Toronto. The popular styles are not the same. And as I mentioned, that's why it's so similar to the US in terms of different markets, because that happens in the US as well. That the styles will be like in like an urban city center like New York, and then you go to Miami, different style will be like promoted, different style will be the best seller. And that's where a brand needs to make sure that they do understand that before doing any activation in campaigns, because that could be costly. And in a big territory like the US, where there's like 350 plus million people, well, it could cost a lot.
Yeah, and you could
Yeah.
hit and miss too. And this is why we recommend, like, why don't you start with a smaller market or one market at a time? Because you're going to learn so much, especially if you're new in such a huge market, because there are so many differences from one let's say, state to the other. Tell me, though, do you think it would be interesting for a brand to start in Canada first, like to promote or launch in Canada first? Or if so, why? And
Well, if the
not,
brand
why
is in
not?
Canada, it's definitely easier, right? Just because then you have to go through product custom and all that stuff, and you remember like in the past life.
Yeah, that's an easy answer. But I was thinking about, let's say a European brand that wants to enter the North American market. So what do you think? Where do they
Yeah,
go?
we have a lot of example because of the language. Let's say you're in France, right? Quebec would be a great market, because even though the language is kind of the same, even though it's not exactly the same French,
but yeah,
so that would be a great entryway, because then you have also the American style. Because even though we're, French Quebecer, we still are Americans in a way. So,
yes, definitely
right?
are North American for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the type of PR we do, but also the type of clientele, like the type of clients that you will find in this market. So I do feel that it's like way cheaper because of the territory is so small in terms of number of people, that it's a great like lab to kind of test out like some campaigns and test out like some adaptation of what you do in France. I do feel that it will definitely be better to start in Canada.
Yeah.
But I know that you've known brands.
Secret. Yeah. It's a well-kept secret that French people know because of the language. And sometimes they come, let's say, in Quebec, and they use Quebec as a springboard. And it's great because then they realize, like, wow, even in that market, I have to adapt so much of my communication, my website, and all my promotional tools. So they understand that if this is just one step, so if you decide to go to New York or to LA, so there's another huge adaptation of your material that you need to do. So it's a great market to test because, well, the Canadian dollar, first of all, is probably right now 25% under the US dollar. So you can come and try things for it's going to cost money, obviously, but way less than if you
and also,
go right away to the United States.
There was a saying when I was working in the beauty industry in the past life that it's great for beauty brands to start in Canada because the regulation and rules in Canada are so, strict that if you're approved in Canada, well, you have a great chance to be approved in the US.
That's true. It's still true today. It's still true today, I'm sure. That's so interesting. But sometimes it's different too. Like I've seen different ways of entering the US market, but it really depends. If, let's say, we know a beauty brand, but they decided to enter through New York, but wow, they had some huge assets or possibilities behind them, and they opened a spa and a very luxurious hotel, and the family moved, the founders of the brand moved to New York. But listen to this, these people were working hard. I'm still impressed by what they did even today, because it's the perfect example of they wanted to understand the market. So they moved to one of a major city, and then they went to all of the other locations. They were in this market for at least more than 2 years. They lived here. So I think they were here 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. And they did something amazing too, that I still that impresses me. And this is when you know that these people really listen to what their clients are looking for. They went to pharmacy, they did some tests. Nobody knew who they were. They were presenting their products to, let's say, New Yorkers or people in LA or even in Toronto, and they had so many comments, sometimes really bad comments about their own products, but nobody knew who they were. But they were ready to hear that, and they made the necessary changes. That was amazing. Very impressive, but it's a different kind of work, and they weren't in this hurry mode that everybody wants a miracle right now. Today I find so, but they had another vision because it's their own brand, it's a family-owned brand. They were building something, but
I was gonna say,
that's also another way.
Exactly, building your legacy takes time. We know we have a lot of viral example of, brands that went so viral right after a TikTok video, and then they were not able to kind of support that increase so easily. But
yeah, you have to be careful. And we had a client too that told us that it was it happened almost by by chance. So one TikToker was talking about their product, hair removal product, but then they were out of stock.
Yeah.
They couldn't even supply and make more, so it took time. So they lost sales for sure. But so it's interesting in their case because they weren't looking for that. But if this is something you do, and then all of a sudden you don't have enough product or you can't ship because you don't have these capacities.
Yeah, definitely.
There's so many differences between the markets, but you're right. The similarities are about the smaller markets in these two huge territories,
and there's also that difference of time, and that's just because of the quantity of freelancer, of journalists or editors, or on the other side, brands that want to be featured in U.S. publication, right? So as you can imagine, how many brands can send a press release to one journalist a day? And we're talking about few hundreds, I'm sure. So how can you make sure
maybe thousands sometimes?
Right, yeah, of course.
You were talking about Vogue magazine or Forbes.
Can you
how
imagine?
many brands? The entire world wants to be featured by them, right?
Senior fashion editor at Vogue, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that. Email box is. Quite intense, but yeah, it's all that to say that time is definitely something that we need to kind of understand in this kind of instant world. Everything, even though it's not instant, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means you need to take the time and put the time and put the work in creating something bigger and that will sustain.
Yeah, it doesn't mean not to try. Sometimes we are ready to find the right influencer if we have a brand that we think that can support what this influencer will do, and if it's a good match. And sometimes you can have some very instant crazy success, but is it just a one-time success? So it depends what the brand is looking for sure. There are so many ways of working, and it depends on the product. For example, you are working right now with an international brand that did a partnership with this amazing ambassador. She's an international renowned. Should we say her name?
Skier.
She's a skier, and she's worldwide famous. She has won the most awards and medal in the history of humankind. So she's an amazing woman. So this is different, though. So if you're this kind of brand and you have such an ambassador, of course, then you can enter the market in a different way. But this is just there is a lot of money.
Yeah, of course, the means and the assets
that
the brand has, and the legacy again, because the brand is not from yesterday. It's been there forever, and they build that, so they're able to kind of, when they launch something new, we are kind of making sure that our base are so strong that we can now launch in a big way, a big bang, right? But the work has been done before.
Oh, for
right?
sure. Yeah. No, it's you're right. But it's interesting. This is also, if you have such an ambassador, of course you can go and try to be in all over the place because people are gonna be running after you. They will want to talk about your brand. So for sure. And so before we end this recording, so do you have a preference for Canada or the United States?
Well, okay, comparison. Like I don't think I have a favorite, but I would say Canada is my stay-at-home, cozy blanket, hot tea, and that would be Canada. And US would be my cosmopolitan in the bar. So it's not that I prefer one or the other. It's fun to be home, but also sometimes just to go out and having fun. So that's what US is for me. Like I'm exploring the market and different markets, right? New York, LA, and everything, and it's very, very exciting. That's for sure. But Canada always, I'm from here. I'm from a little town, so I will always be obviously like a Canadian at heart. But who knows, right?
Yeah. And those brands who just want the US market know that sometimes depending on your product, I remember some American brands we work with, they were making after a few years 25% of their sales in Canada. So you know what?
Exactly.
Sometimes it's interesting to explore Canadian market as well.
For sure.
So I can't believe it's the 85th episode. Oh, it's crazy. And so as I said, if you want to find out more about David, you can go back and listen to episode 10. Or if you're interested to hear us talk, and if you like the live feeling, so we do Instagram lives, not every week, but quite often actually in English and French. And so we have an Instagram account, Nata PR. I'll put all the links below this episode. And I hope this little break in your day was inspiring and that it makes you think about the market you want to choose first if you decide to come to North America. So hopefully you'll be joining me next week. À la semaine prochaine. Hey, you want to learn more about how to implement PR strategies? Head on to natapr.com and get on our list. You will also receive the Nata PR model on how to create a successful PR campaign. If you want to become a client, just send us an email to nata@natapr.com. Talk to you next week. À la semaine prochaine.